Hey, welcome to this week's video. In this week's video, I want to talk about something that I hear quite often from my clients, and that is that their customers are price sensitive. And because of that, they end up focusing on price more than other things in their business. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the 4 reasons why your customers don't buy from you, and then more importantly, what you can do to get them to buy and to increase the buying rate from your customers while not having to decrease your price. So let's get started. Okay, so the first reason is that the value is not high enough. But what I mean by this is that let's say that you're doing a repair on a car and that repair is about $2,000, but really the car is only worth, say, $1,500. Clearly the value, it does not exceed the price in that case, and that doesn't make sense for your customer to buy. The second is that there are cheaper alternatives. This would be that there's somebody down the street that's cheaper than you. But in the reality here, it's actually our fault because we're not communicating the value that we are giving that customer and what kind of differentiates us from that competitor, which we'll talk a little bit about how you can do that later in this video. The third is that they can't afford you. In this case, they actually are interested and they do see the value of the services, but it's too expensive for them to actually be able to pay. And in this case, I would say that's possibly our fault again as well, because our marketing maybe is not going after the correct target market that we're trying to bring in, and those customers that can afford our services. And again, we'll get into this a little bit later in this video. And the fourth reason is they don't see the value. And in here, again, I would say this is probably our fault as well because we haven't communicated that value to your customer in the correct way in order for them to see that value exceeds the cost that they pay. So in this case, it may be related to your marketing, it may be related to the communication, but there are things that you can do specifically to address this issue in your business. Okay, so now let's talk about the value equation. When you look at the value equation, it's quite simply, as you probably guessed, is the benefits exceed the cost or the price. Now, when I talk about cost, the cost is actually the cost of the service or product or both that you're delivering, but it's also another cost would be maybe the location of where your business is at. It may be the time. It may be something else that's also a cost to that buyer that adds into just the price of that product. But really, taking a look at the benefits and the cost and the price, we can break this down even further to better understand what it is that we can do to change this, and so we can make that the value that we're giving them to the customer in their minds higher than the actual cost. So let's first break down the benefits. Now, benefits can be broken down into 2 areas. The first is the tangible benefit. This is actually what you're actually delivering to the customer. It could be a product or it could be a service. This is the thing that they're going to receive from what you're providing them with. So that's what the customer is actually seeing. And there are ways that you can communicate this to your customer that will increase the value, but it's up to you to kind of figure out what it is that, if you're in your customer's shoes, what you would want to communicate it or be communicated to increase what the tangible benefits are of that product. So if you're selling a brake repair, then I as a customer know they're brakes, but there are very different types of brakes that you can actually add to a vehicle that the customer, when they understand, they can see the value that you're providing them in those brakes. Maybe safety for their family, there may be other things as well. The other part of benefit is the intangible benefit. These are things that are not the physical thing that you're delivering, but they're things outside of it, like customer service. It could be a guarantee that you're providing. It could be the whole experience that you're giving that customer in that service or product you're delivering. It could be also how you communicate that to your customer as well. But think of things that are important to that customer that you would also want to have if you were in their shoes as well. It could simply be the environment that they're receiving those services in. If there's a waiting room, or there's other services that you provide like transportation, things like that to make it convenient for the customer. Those are things that will weigh in the mind of your customer, and it's often overlooked by business owners how important this is. The brand of your business is very important. And if you're drinking a Coca-Cola, well, Coca-Cola has that brand versus if you're drinking the generic Coke. The perception of the two is going to be completely different. So your job as an entrepreneur and a business owner is to move towards giving that experience of that product. And that's going to differentiate you from the cheaper alternatives that are out there. Now let's look at the cost. And I kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier, but the cost is really important in how you communicate that to your customer. In my example of the brakes, there's different brake pads and different types that you may offer them. Tires are a good example. There's so many different tires. Oh my gosh, if you ever research tires, there is a ton of different types that you could possibly put on your vehicle. And explaining that to the customer and making them understand what they really are buying is huge for them to see in their mind. Again, you want to get the benefit above, right? The cost. Once they see that value and it exceeds that, then you're not competing with your competitors that are lowering the price. You're giving them the benefits, they're seeing that benefits, and you're keeping your price. So it's really a win-win for your consumer and for you as well, because you didn't have to lower your price. And you shouldn't have to lower your price if you've done your job in communicating the value. So this all comes down to the formula or the value equation that I have here. It's the perceived value and the perception of the benefits and the cost. If you nail these areas, then what I said earlier, why the customers are not buying, you can take a look at this value equation, and as simple as it may be, and as simple as it is on the paper or on the screen right here, the more important it is for you to kind of take a step back and go, yes, it's simple, but things are hard when they're simple. So in other words, take each area of what you're doing, where you're communicating, the way the customer has the experience, the way you're delivering the product or service that you have offering the customer, the marketing and way you communicate it, the brand, the environment, all that stuff is going to be extremely important in making sure that you get the price that you want, but getting that benefit above that. If you nail that, and it takes work, you will nail it if you do work on this and focus on this value equation. So that's it for this week's video. If you receive some value out of this, it'd be awesome if you hit that thumbs up, and it'd be great if you subscribe, because I'm going to have future videos that are also going to talk about how you can change the perception of price in the minds of your customers using price psychology, and that is definitely an impactful way to be able to get the benefit but get the price there, so you get the price that you want and that you deserve. Until next time, I'll see you on the next one.